Over the past year, one of the most talked about topics in the tech world hasn't been a new smartphone, a graphics card launch, or even AI hardware. It's been an operating system that doesn't officially exist yet. Windows 12. Rumors, leaks, insider hints, job listings, UI mockups, and speculative concept videos have flooded the internet, all pointing toward Microsoft preparing its next major operating system. But here's the twist. While people are waiting for Windows 12, Linux distributions are quietly gaining ground. And in 2026, many tech enthusiasts are asking a bold question. Are Linux distros actually beating Microsoft at its own game? To understand this shift, we need to go back to the current state of Windows. Windows 11 was launched with big promises, a modern interface, tighter security, better gaming integration, and deeper cloud connectivity, but it also came with controversy. Strict hardware requirements, TPM 2.0 enforcement, forced Microsoft account sign-ins for many editions, deeper integration of ads and suggested content in the start menu, and increasing background telemetry created a sense of discomfort among power users. Many users felt that their personal computers were slowly becoming controlled ecosystems rather than truly personal machines. Now enter the rumors of Windows 12. According to multiple industry reports and insider discussions, Microsoft is reportedly planning a more modular, cloud-connected, AI-driven operating system. The idea floating around suggests heavier integration with AI copilots, subscription-based features, and even more reliance on Microsoft services. The concept sounds futuristic, but it also raises concerns. Will Windows 12 require constant internet connectivity? Will core features move behind subscriptions? Will offline, local computing become secondary? At the same time, Linux distributions have been evolving rapidly. What used to require terminal commands, driver hunting, and technical patience has transformed into polished, user-friendly environments. Distros like Ubuntu, Linux, Mint, Fedora, and Arch Linux have matured dramatically. Installation processes are simpler than ever. Hardware detection has improved. Gaming compatibility has reached levels that once seemed impossible. The biggest turning point in Linux gaming came from an unexpected direction: Valve. When Valve Corporation launched the Steam Deck, it wasn't powered by Windows. It ran SteamOS, which is based on Linux, and more importantly, Valve invested heavily in Proton, a compatibility layer that allows Windows games to run on Linux with surprisingly strong performance. In 2026, thousands of AAA titles run on Linux through Proton with minimal tweaks. For gamers, this removed one of the last major barriers to switching away from Windows. Meanwhile, Microsoft continues pushing deeper integration with cloud ecosystems like Microsoft 365 and services like OneDrive. While convenient for some, others see this as lock-in. The more Windows ties into subscriptions and cloud storage, the more users feel dependent on a single vendor. Linux, on the other hand, offers flexibility. You can use cloud services if you want, but nothing forces you to. Another factor driving Linux adoption is performance efficiency. Modern Linux desktops often consume fewer system resources compared to Windows installations packed with background services. Lightweight environments such as XFCE, KDE Plasma, and GNOME have all seen performance optimizations. On older hardware that Windows 11 or a potential Windows 12 might reject due to hardware requirements, Linux often runs smoothly. For users in developing regions or those extending the life of their machines, this matters enormously. Privacy has become a defining theme of the 2020s. Telemetry, data collection, targeted ads, and AI data harvesting have made users more cautious. Windows has telemetry settings, but critics argue they are difficult to fully disable. Linux distributions generally collect little to no user data by default. For privacy-conscious individuals, this transparency builds trust. Then there's the open-source philosophy. Linux is community-driven. Developers from around the world contribute code, audit security patches, and propose improvements. This decentralized model means innovation can happen quickly. It also means no single corporation controls the entire direction of the platform. When users dislike a change, they can fork, modify, or switch distributions entirely. That level of autonomy simply doesn't exist in proprietary ecosystems. However, it's important to acknowledge that Windows still dominates enterprise environments and mainstream consumer desktops. Software compatibility remains a powerful advantage. Tools like Adobe, Creative Cloud, certain engineering applications, and enterprise management suites often prioritize Windows. While Linux alternatives exist, not every workflow transitions seamlessly. But here's where 2026 becomes interesting. Web-based applications are replacing traditional desktop software. Creative tools, collaboration platforms, and even development environments increasingly run in browsers. As software moves to the cloud, the underlying operating system becomes less important. If your primary tools run in Chrome or Firefox, why stay locked into Windows? There's also the issue of updates. Windows updates have improved over time, but surprise restarts and forced update cycles still frustrate users. Linux updates tend to be more transparent. Users can choose when to apply them. Some rolling release distributions deliver constant incremental updates without massive version jumps. Security plays a complex role in this debate. Windows remains the largest target for malware simply because of its market share. Linux's architecture and permission systems reduce some attack surfaces. Additionally, rapid patch cycles in open-source communities can respond quickly to vulnerabilities. That said, no system is invulnerable, and misconfiguration can expose risks on any platform. The rise of AI integration is another turning point. Rumors suggest Windows 12 could deeply embed AI assistance into the operating system, potentially monitoring workflows, suggesting actions, and automating tasks. While this sounds powerful, it also increases system complexity and potentially data collection. Linux communities are experimenting with AI too, but often in modular ways that users can enable or disable. Cost is another angle. Windows licenses come pre-installed on most machines, but custom builders and enterprise deployments pay licensing fees. Linux distributions are free. For governments, schools, and startups looking to cut expenses, that matters. In several regions, public institutions have already experimented with Linux migrations to reduce dependency on foreign vendors. The customization argument cannot be ignored. Linux allows extensive personalization: window managers, themes, workflows, kernel tweaks. Windows customization exists, but within limits. For power users, developers, and enthusiasts, Linux offers unmatched control. Yet the average consumer cares about convenience. Windows machines arrive ready to use, with driver support guaranteed by hardware vendors. Although Linux hardware compatibility has improved dramatically, occasional driver issues still surface, especially with niche hardware. This remains one of Linux's challenges. As we look toward Windows 12, the biggest question is direction. Will Microsoft double down on cloud-first computing and AI subscriptions? Or will it address user complaints about control, privacy, and system bloat? If Windows 12 prioritizes corporate ecosystems over user freedom, Linux could continue gaining momentum. In 2026, the competition is no longer about which operating system can boot your PC. It's about philosophy: centralized versus decentralized, subscription versus ownership, AI-driven automation versus manual control, corporate roadmap versus community collaboration. Linux distros are not necessarily beating Microsoft in raw numbers. Windows still holds the majority market share, but in innovation pace, user trust among enthusiasts, gaming progress, and adaptability to older hardware, Linux is winning important battles. And perhaps that's the real story. Not that Windows is failing, but that Linux is no longer the underdog. It has matured, it has polished its rough edges. It has entered mainstream conversations, not as an alternative for hobbyists, but as a legitimate daily driver for millions. Whether Windows 12 becomes a triumphant reinvention or a controversial pivot will shape the next decade of personal computing. But one thing is certain: for the first time in years, Microsoft is facing serious competition on the desktop from an ecosystem that thrives without a single CEO, without a single headquarters, and without a subscription requirement. The future of operating systems in 2026 is not about dominance, it's about choice. And that choice has never been more interesting.